time management was key. I am a schedule fanatic. Everything hits this calendar. If it doesn't hit the calendar, it does not exist.
Yes.
But to be more granular on that, because people ask me this question frequently, even now that I am not balancing my corporate career, the brand has grown so much from the time that I did take the leap off the ladder that I really still am balancing a lot with now having the second location and my nonprofit organization and just all the various things that are happening. It almost sounds crazy, but I really do write an equation for how I'm going to look at my month at the beginning of each month. I actually just did it for this upcoming month of September. I give every single part of my life a variable. So each facet of the business, the suites, the salon, the nonprofit, they all have a variable. My daughter, my marriage, my housework, everything that's like a big part of my life, I give a variable and I make sure that I write the equation in a way that doesn't exceed 100 because I can only be 100% of me. I can't be 300% of me.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Welcome to another episode of the Black to Business Podcast. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall, and today we're delving into a topic that is as relatable as it gets. It's kind of that story that countless budding entrepreneurs have lived or are living right now. You're on the rise in your corporate job or your job in general, and you're scaling the ladder of success. And yet there's this persistent dream that refuses to let go. It's the dream of building your own business, pursuing your own passions, and crafting your own destiny. The balancing act between your demanding job and your entrepreneur ambitions, and that's what today's episode is all about. This is where ambition meets reality, where the grind of your 9-to-5 intersects with the thrill of your entrepreneurial aspirations. So our guest today, Morgan Chavis, knows this journey all too well. She's an entrepreneur who has lived the hustle of rapidly ascending the corporate ladder while nurturing a burning desire for entrepreneurship. Today, she shares her experiences, insights, and the invaluable lessons she's learned along the way. So get ready to learn how to master the balancing act to pursue your passion and climb the corporate ladder simultaneously, overcome unique hurdles when transitioning from corporate success to entrepreneurship, and discover strategies for time management, mindset shifts, and determining the perfect moment to take the leap. This episode is a goldmine of knowledge, so let's dive right in. Morgan, welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. Such a treat to have you here. And I know we were chatting before, but I am really excited about having you on the Black to Business Podcast and just hearing more about your story and the work that you are doing. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. I absolutely love what you are doing with this podcast. It's so necessary. There's so many business owners out there that need these resources. So I am hyped to be here.
And I am glad you're hyped. So you got me hyped. Okay, let's get into it. So what I like to do before we get into today's topic is just get my audience a little bit familiar with who you are. So if you could just share a little bit of your story, what is it that you do and kind of how did you get where you are today in your business?
My gosh, that is such a loaded question. Who is Morgan?
Yes.
I think if I could use one word to describe myself, I would say multifaceted. Yes, I have my hand in a lot of different pots and they all come together and make this amazing gumbo. So I'll start from the beginning. I am a Detroit native and I am a proud Detroiter. I'm one of those Detroiters where you can't say anything bad about Detroit that you see on the news because I'm going to defend it. Yes, so I am proudly born and raised in Detroit. I lived there my entire childhood, and I relocated to Virginia to attend the illustrious Hampton University, the best HBCU on the planet. I love it.
Love it.
Yes. So I attended Hampton University for 4 years, where I obtained my bachelor's degree in business management. And I jumped right into the corporate world after completing school. I started working for Target Corporation at one of their largest distribution centers in their network as an area manager. And it was really an amazing experience. I feel that Target was the perfect place to learn how to manage people.
Yeah.
Yes, I got amazing experience there, met a lot of amazing people, to include my husband. And I spent my first 2 years of my corporate career at Target, and I took the jump to Amazon from there, where I went to one of their startup warehouse buildings, again, as an area manager. And I quickly moved into the position of the assistant site lead. So I climbed the corporate ladder quickly at Amazon. It was like a sprint that never ended.
Yes. The different type of people. I know some people who worked at, I was just talking to somebody about Target. I'm like, it's like hard to get in Target. So the one, I already know you're a different type of person. And then Amazon within itself. So it's like, I've seen people do Target and Amazon. Y'all are different types of people. And I love it. Hardworking. Yes, I believe everything you're saying.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Different is a good word to call it. I think we're crazy.
I don't want to say that on here, but you said it, I mean.
Yes. So I hopped around quite a bit at Amazon, but my ultimate path ended up being through that people operations space. So I spent some time on the staffing team, and my job there was to hire for our warehouse buildings within the Virginia region. So I had a total of 13 buildings at one point. And these buildings, we're hiring the warehouse workers. So you're talking hundreds, in some of the buildings, thousands of employees that we are responsible to hire for a year. So that job kept me traveling so much, and managing a remote team. Again, amazing experience. And I eventually segued into diversity, equity, and inclusion with Amazon on their fraud team, which was a global team. So I went from having interstate travel to a global capacity where the majority of the teams were in India and Costa Rica, and I had 11 countries where I was responsible for the diversity, equity, and inclusion program. Wow. Awesome experience, most awesome experience of my life, just to be able to work with so many amazing people. So that's kind of the corporate hat that I wore. But cosmetology came into play when I was a child. I have always loved hair. My very first job at 13 years old was at a hair salon in Detroit as a shampoo assistant. And I practiced cosmetology while I was in college, and formally obtained my cosmetology license while I was in school at Hampton. So I've always known, even though I took the corporate path, that the beauty industry and service was my passion. So that's how my salon, Luso Salon, was born. In 2019, while I was employed at Amazon, I opened my first brick and mortar business, Luso Salon. And now I'm on the second, which is Luso Suites. And in addition to my business, I'm a mom and a wife and all those fun things.
I love it. I love it. Such an amazing journey. And one thing I do know for sure, so I went to Howard, the real HU, a little fun there. So, but one thing I do know for sure, I said, there is nobody that hustles like those Detroit people. Y'all are some of the hardest working people I know. I will give y'all that too.
Look.
So yes, I believe, yes. Y'all
it is different. It is different. It's just a grind. Like there's a constant grind culture in Detroit. It's crazy because my dad, he celebrated his 60th birthday this year. And my dad totally could be retired, and so could my bonus mom, but they both work like they are trying to make ends meet.
Right. They just won't give up.
It's the Detroit in them. We're some hustlers.
Yes. I'm like, is it the cold? Like, where'd that come from? But I love it. And so I'm so excited to dive into this. I'm so happy that you shared your story. And one of the things I love about what you were doing, I think it is so valuable to have you here today, is that you actually wrote a book, Leap Off the Ladder, all about, our conversation today is really for folks balancing those ambitions that are trying to climb that corporate ladder towards their dream. So before we dive into that, tell me about what inspired you to write your book, Leap Off the Ladder.
Yes. So as I mentioned, I juggled Amazon and my salon together for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually was doing hair in the salon.
Wow.
And I had many clients. Most of them were the ones encouraging me to leave my corporate job. Because, you have salon talk. We all know the Black salon environment. We like to
Yeah.
chit chat. We like to have conversation. And you talk about your life. You talk about what's important to you and what's going on. It's like a therapy session.
Mm-hmm.
And many of my clients encouraged me and my team around me of like, you could do this. Your team is successful here. You can be successful here. Ditch that job, girl. You got this. You got this. It's time.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I had the courage to finally do it, there were so many people that asked me, how did you get the courage? Like, how did you
Yeah.
know? How did you know what to do first? I wouldn't even know the first step of like being able to survive without knowing what day my check is coming, if that's what I was used to. Some people make that statement like you're born an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So to take that transition from having such a vivacious corporate career and leaving it was difficult. And I really was inspired to write the book by everyone around me who either encouraged me to take the leap or who asked me how I did it because they want to do the same.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Love it. All right. So I love that you shared that backstory because I think it's so important as we go into our discussion first of navigating how you were able to navigate the corporate ladder while discovering your passion. So Morgan, for you, you had this high responsibility job and then you were running a business at the same time. So how did you manage to pursue both your passion for cosmetology while working in the corporate world?
Yes, time management was key. I am a schedule fanatic. Everything hits this calendar. If it doesn't hit the calendar, it does not exist.
Yes.
But to be more granular on that, because people ask me this question frequently, even now that I am not balancing my corporate career, the brand has grown so much from the time that I did take the leap off the ladder that I really still am balancing a lot with now having the second location and my nonprofit organization and just all the various things that are happening. It almost sounds crazy, but I really do write an equation for how I'm going to look at my month at the beginning of each month. I actually just did it for this upcoming month of September. I give every single part of my life a variable. So each facet of the business, the suites, the salon, the nonprofit, they all have a variable. My daughter, my marriage, my housework, everything that's like a big part of my life, I give a variable and I make sure that I write the equation in a way that doesn't exceed 100 because I can only be 100% of me. I can't be 300% of me. There's
Right.
only one of me. I give each variable a percentage until I'm at 100. And that's how I divide up the hours that I plan for my week.
Mm-hmm.
So if I gave, let's say that my husband has something going on with his job that's requiring me to support him more, and that's taking up 25% of my week. I'm just using an example. I look at how many hours I have to work on things, not commuting, not getting dressed, not eating, but to actually be productive. And if I give one of my variables 25%, then I'm going to use 25% of those hours on my calendar towards whatever that variable is.
Mm.
Now, I know that sounds like extremely difficult to manage, but I'm going to tell you why for me it's not. For me, it's truly just like a framework and a guideline of how to manage my week. If things
Mm-hmm.
end up playing out differently, that's totally fine. But at least I approached the week with a plan.
Yes, I love that.
Yes. And so I'm able to say when I'm approached with an opportunity, hey, would you like to do X? If
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't fit in the hours that I have, that's the discernment that I use to say, no, I can't do this. Or, yes, I want to do this, but I'm going to have to take it from somewhere else. It just keeps me intentional about where I am.
Yes, I love that, and I think so many people when they're looking outside looking in, they're like, oh my gosh, she sets everything on her schedule, but it allows you to give time to those things, like you said. So I love that you broke that down for us, and I was taking notes, so thank you.
You're welcome.
So next I want to talk about the realization that led you to recognize that your true calling was entrepreneurship. What was that moment like? How did you realize, okay, entrepreneurship works for me? This is what I'm going to do.
So for me, it was not an aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't want to scapegoat the answer, but it wasn't an aha moment for me. I literally was born this way. As a child, I had a business, Morgan's Main Styles, in my basement doing
Ooh.
people's hair as a kid.
Yeah.
Or even when I turned 12, I was in Girl Scouts and we did a CPR certification in Girl Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
I created little flyers so that I could babysit the neighborhood kids. And I put on there what made me different was that I was certified and I come with a suitcase of children's safe toys. And
Wow.
you can contact me to book your appointment. I mean, this has just been me my
Uh-huh.
entire life. My sister and I had a candy store that we ran out of our backyard as kids during the summertime. I was born and raised in a historical neighborhood in Detroit. My home that I grew up in is now over 100 years old, and it has a milk chute, which is really, really cool. I don't know
Wow.
if it's,
What's a
yeah.
milk chute?
So back in the day, there was a milkman who would come and
Mm-hmm.
deliver your fresh milk. And so the house has like literally a little door. It's
Wow.
maybe like a foot wide and about 6-7 inches tall. And the milkman would put the milk inside of there, close the door, and then you had one on your end on the inside of the house, and that's how you got your milk.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yes. And so my sister and I, we ran this candy store of ours. Her name is Ashley. So our candy store was Ashmore's Sweet Treats. We had
I
a
love it.
sign in the yard that said, ring the bell around the back and get your candy orders out the milk chute. So we would sit posted up at the milk chute selling candy.
Wow. That's a hustler, Detroit.
Right. Like you said, that Detroit hustle. And so look,
Yeah.
I have been dedicated
Yes.
to making a coin my way since I was a child. I really do think that the entrepreneurial spirit is just something that I was born with.
Mm-hmm.
But still, to answer your question, because I told you I wasn't going to scapegoat the question,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
there still was like a moment where I was like, okay, I'm not meant to work for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And it was while I was in DEI at Amazon. At first, I never had the plan to leave my corporate career when I opened the salon. The salon was intended to be a fulfillment of my passion for entrepreneurship. And honestly, it was meant to be a side hustle. It was meant to be supplemental income that just, I would get it to a point where it kind of ran itself and then I would make extra money. That was my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was able to do both. It was working. But when I was on the DEI team at Amazon, I would get so personally upset about how things were run that I could not fix or
Yeah.
change. It would literally like blow my entire mood for the whole day if something went in a way that was like, I just have to, we have a leadership principle at Amazon, disagree and commit.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to disagree with what it is, state why you disagree, but commit until the entire group makes a decision differently. And that disagree and commit situation was just not for me.
Like in a courtroom, disagree and
Yeah, well,
commit.
yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is the case in any corporate environment. There
Yeah.
it can never be that, hey, I gave you guys my idea, so that means you should do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes the consensus is no, we're not going to do what you wanted to do, and you have to disagree with their decision, but commit to what the masses have decided.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, a courtroom is a perfect analogy because it's really like a democracy.
Yeah. And the
You've been
jurors
outvoted.
decide. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that don't sit well with me. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I would be really bent out of shape anytime that I had to disagree and commit. And I remember having one of these conversations with my husband, who I make a joke and say my husband is already a business coach because he coaches me quite often. And he
Shout
was
out
like,
to the hubby.
yes. He was like, have you ever thought that you just might not be meant to work for them? Like, you might not be meant to work for anybody. Like,
Uh-huh.
maybe that's not your calling. That was my aha moment of like, okay, I'm already an entrepreneur, but
Yeah.
maybe I can solely be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. And so were there any challenges that you faced as you began to like balance these corporate responsibilities and your pursuits? Because like you said, your personal pursuits, because like you said, it was working. Were there any challenges that you particularly faced? I'm sure for those who are balancing their jobs and their side hustle, were there for you?
Whoa, well, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
There's a challenge a day, I say. The biggest being, even though I feel like I have a good handle on it, I did not always have a good handle on that time management piece.
Mm-hmm.
It took trial and error. It took for me to screw it up. It took for me to be double booked. It took for me to miss one of my daughter's events,
Mm-hmm.
to realize that, okay, I'm going to have to put a system to this time management situation. The second thing for me, and I'm just going to keep it a buck, this has made me to have a complete lifestyle change.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that, there are these amazing entrepreneurs who struck gold and just immediately got rich from whatever their business idea was. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we see those things to happen,
Yes, we do.
but that is not the norm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially not for someone who is in a service-based business servicing everyday people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
usually when you see those, like, I became a millionaire out of nowhere businesses, it's normally like an invention or a product,
Yeah.
or something that solves a major problem. That's
Mm-hmm.
not the industry I'm in. I'm in the beauty industry. There's a million hair salons. You can choose any of them. So this is not going to be a get rich quick business. And it took me a long time to understand you're going to have to change some things. I
Mm-hmm.
used to say kind of braggingly, yep, I leapt off the ladder and did not have to make any lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
Well, that ran short.
I feel it's like, yeah. Enjoy that for now.
Exactly. It just is not realistic. And as I speak to other aspiring entrepreneurs or other existing entrepreneurs who are planning to scale,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of gets to the point where it's like, if you want to grow your business, you're going to have to cut back from yourself to reinvest in the business somewhere.
Yes, certainly.
Yes. So the challenge for me was realizing that was inevitable for me to grow to where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been very humbling. I've had to say, no, I can't go on that trip.
Mm-hmm.
That never had to be the answer. The answer was sign me up. My bags are packed. Or can I cash up you for my ticket so we can have our seats together?
Yes.
It became, there's no bottle service.
Right.
Maybe
Just
you
a
have
little
to walk to the
luxury.
bar.
You gotta go get it yourself.
You might have to go get it yourself, okay? Brooklyn is not calling your name this Sunday. So, I really just had to wrap my mind around the fact that, like, well, I work for myself. I'm supposed to be driving a G-Wagon and living in a $3 million house. And my daughter's supposed to be going to the best private school on the planet with the celebrities' kids. And, like, where is the cameras,
Mm-hmm.
And just understanding that that's a fantasy and that is not everybody's realistic life as an entrepreneur. That was a big challenge for me.
Yes. I am so glad you shared that because I think it's so important. People are like, okay, this can happen for me. I'm just going to quit my job, some with no plan. And it's like, no. And that's why I really wanted to have this conversation today, because I also want to talk about the importance of it might not be your time right now. So build yourself while you're at work. And so I want to talk about your journey of building yourself while you're at work, because a lot of people, like you said, it doesn't happen overnight for a lot of people. So for you, how did for people who are listening, be thankful for where you are, have that plan. So for you, how did your corporate career kind of help contribute to your skill set and your personal growth, especially on your entrepreneur journey?
I love this question. So I just had a coaching session with one of my clients yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and she said to me, I created a 7-year exit strategy for my corporate career, but
Yeah.
I feel like that's way too long. And you did it so quickly. And, you know, it's 7 years too long. I looked at her and I said, I should have waited longer.
Mm-hmm. You were
You're
two
being,
years, right?
yes. So I am 2 years post my corporate career.
Okay.
And my brick and mortar business was open for 2 years while I was there. So I spent two
Got it. Yeah.
years juggling them together. And
Mm-hmm.
now I am 4 years in business.
Got it. Yeah.
And so I told her, I said, I should have waited. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was not ready.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get ready because I made the decision.
Right. Fight or
But
flight.
I told her, if it takes you 7 years to execute an efficiently planned exit strategy, then take those 7 years. And if
Mm-hmm.
you think that you can check all the boxes that you need to check sooner, then that's awesome. But plan realistically and
Mm-hmm.
be smart about this leap that you're taking. And the reason that I said I love your question is because not in one part of that question or even in your follow-up dialogue did you mention money.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the skill sets. You talked about your development.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned your growth.
Yeah.
I think the space where I wasn't ready was definitely a financial space. I really wish that I would have stacked a few more
Mm-hmm.
coins before making that leap and that I would have used them a little more wisely. But that's not even why I said I wasn't ready. That answer to the previous question of the challenge behind like having to humble myself,
Yeah.
that mindset shift comes with growth and maturity.
Yeah.
And so I really do think that if I would have stuck it out just a smidge longer to get a little more senior level experience,
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have been able to navigate some of those challenges without taking them so personally.
Yeah. That's true. I'm so glad you shared that. And I think I never shared on the podcast. It took me 5 years to, my journey. And similar, I was starting to like discipline myself. I remember it was 1 year. I didn't shop for a whole year. And I was this come in looking fly all the time, trip here, trip there. But I was like, nope, you
Yes.
got to prepare for this because you might not be able to do this. And I remember I got my friends ready. I'm like, listen, y'all going out? I got $100. They used to be like, okay, can we go to this space? You got $30 left. Let's go here. So,
Yes.
yeah, I'm so glad that you shared that because I feel like people get antsy and they see things. It happened for someone else this way, but of course our journeys are different. And so having to coach someone and let them know like it's okay that it's taking you this time. Love that.
Absolutely. And I love that you said like we see it happen. You know, there's that whole social media piece.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, the pressure is just it's
It's
so
getting worse. Yeah.
tremendous. It's so overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
and I follow so many business blogs and stuff like that where they tell you, oh, I made $2 million in the first 6 months with my drop shipping website. Like, did
Mm-hmm.
you really?
Yeah.
And maybe you did, but how much of that did you keep? How much of that did you pay
Mm-hmm.
yourself? So when I have an opportunity to speak to aspiring entrepreneurs, I like to keep it real.
Yeah.
I have had to, like you said, that no shopping situation,
Yep.
girl,
Yes. It's real.
put the cart away, empty the cart, press save for later. It really, I think that if I would have kind of done a little more of what you described of like putting
Mm-hmm.
myself in that place before leaving my corporate career, I
Yeah.
might have felt a little more normal when those were the adjustments I had to make as being a sole entrepreneur. And then just from a development standpoint, that growth and maturity that comes with your setbacks.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in my corporate career winning. And
Mm-hmm.
so experiencing a loss for the first
Oh,
time when you're all by yourself and there's no manager to pick you back up, or
yes.
there's no peer that can say, oh girl, stop, dust it off, we're gonna be all right. It's just
Yeah.
you now. That's what I meant by I wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I am so glad you said that because a lot of people, they're high achievers, high performers in the workplace, but it's like this is a totally different ball game. And I was speaking with someone else yesterday on the podcast, and they were talking about what happens when you get into a space also where everyone is winning, everyone is amazing. So having to deal with that as well. But when you're so used to yeses and getting everything your way. So entrepreneurship will humble you.
And it did.
It did, yes. So Morgan, can you share some advice for those who are listening, aspiring entrepreneurs? How can they balance their jobs, their personal lives, while also working on their businesses?
Yes, you can work on your business while you are in your corporate career. You can be doing research.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always something that you can emulate. There's always something that you can analyze. In my book, Leap Off the Ladder, I have a chapter in there called The
Mm-hmm.
Little Black Book. And it's not the little black book that you're thinking of.
Okay.
Um, it's more so a little black book of of businesses that you have either worked for or interacted with that are similar to the ones that you want to start, and you're recording what you like and dislike of that business. So for me, I worked at many different hair salons before I opened my own.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down what I enjoyed about each one of those salons and their owners, their managers, and I wrote down all of the things that I didn't enjoy. And
Mm-hmm.
I was able to take those observations and implement them appropriately within my own business. That's totally something that an aspiring entrepreneur could do while in a corporate career. It could even be observations of your corporation or wherever it is that you work. Hey, I love that my team is inclusive and these are the things that we do for an engagement standpoint, but I don't like that the management is inaccessible to provide feedback. Just examples of how you can be compiling research for your business in your
Mm-hmm.
everyday life. And then secondary to that, while you have that extra income of your job, whatever it may be, of course you're going to be planning, but there's some things you can outsource. If you need help writing your business plan, maybe that's something that you can use your work income and outsource either a business coach or a business planner, because there are those, a business consultant to assist you in writing your business plan while you're super busy climbing that ladder and knocking out those corporate goals. That's something that someone else could be facilitating with you in the background.
Totally agree. Think smart. Leverage. Because I think a lot of times people are just like so sad in the space that they are, and they're thinking about, okay, I want to hop out so soon, but it's like leverage that position while you're there. I love that. And then also you have a background, as you spoke about earlier, in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. How has this experience influenced your approach to entrepreneurship?
My DEI experience definitely has influenced my approach to entrepreneurship because the beauty industry can sometimes look one way,
Mm-hmm.
especially for Black women.
Yeah.
We tend to shy away from letting anybody else touch our hair, of course, because we feel like
Mm-hmm.
no one else understands it. Or our esthetician, we make sure we choose a Black esthetician. And now even this influx of people supporting and making sure that they choose to have a Black nail
Yep.
tech. So the lack of racial diversity in the beauty industry, it has become violently aware to me after studying DEI.
Mm-hmm.
So I ensure that I'm choosing other ways to leverage diversity within my business. I make
Mm-hmm.
sure that my team is not all of people of the same age, or that my team
Mm-hmm.
is not all of people of the same background. I make sure that everyone is able to portray their personality. I think that I became far more intentional about these things and aware of them after studying DEI.
I love that. Yes, this experience helping you all see that. Okay. And can you share any kind of examples of like how your corporate experience has really positively impacted the development of your business?
So, one thing that I can say without a doubt, I am indubitably a stronger people manager than most salon owners that I have encountered for myself.
Yes. Yes.
Usually your salon owner, they are amazing, bomb at their job. Like hands down, best hairstylists ever, right?
Yeah.
And they have a clientele that just is bursting at the seams. And that's when it's their optimal time to open a salon. Same thing in the nail industry, same thing in skin, same thing with lashes. It's like, oh crap, I have too many lash clients. It's time for me to hire somebody underneath me.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you have any people leader experience.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that you know how to keep a team engaged. It doesn't mean that you know how to retain a team. It doesn't mean that you know how to attract talent and hire. It doesn't mean that you know any compliance practices from a human resources standpoint. All of those things are where I thrive. I am a way better manager than I am a hairstylist.
Yeah.
My business is extremely structured. We have an entire employee handbook that is acknowledged and signed by our entire team with all of our attendance policies, our dress code policies, even down to what music that we can play in the salon.
Wow.
I have never worked in a Black salon that is that structured.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that structure and that level of management from a people standpoint definitely comes from my corporate background.
I love that.
And let me just say, as a disclaimer, no shade, no tea to any salon that I have worked in, because I've been at many amazing places, but it's just a trend of something that I have observed even from my clients who I coach.
Yes, it's just different. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I was just talking with some friends about this in business. And I was saying it amazes me how, honestly, like you said, a lot of people don't have people experience. They don't know how to communicate with people. And it's not always what you say, it's how you say it. So knowing how to talk to people, and also, of course, dealing with the Black to Business podcast, I do say that I'm so glad I went to maybe business school, or I did have that corporate experience, because I know strategies, I know operations. And when I work with business owners as well, that's a lot of times what people are lacking, that structure and those operations within their business. So learning that on the job is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now let's talk about preparing to take the leap. So people are like, okay, I'm at a point where I'm thinking about it. I got to prepare. So for you transitioned from a stable job to full-time entrepreneurship, and that's a big decision. Like, what factors should entrepreneurs consider when they're making this leap?
I think the factors that you have to consider is, what will you be happy spending your time doing for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week?
Mm-hmm.
If you are choosing to invest in some sort of a business that you have no passion in, I assure you, on the days where you are trudging through the rut and it just feels never ending, you need that passion to push you through. I was talking with a client who came across a business listing on LoopNet that was a gym for sale, like a workout facility. This girl has no interest at all in exercising or anything physical.
Yeah.
She didn't even like to sweat. And so I had to say to her, like, why do you think that this is your investment opportunity? And she was like, well, I mean, it's just like turnkey. There's no way that this won't make money. And it's like, well, that can't be it. Like, the preparation that I feel that should go into the decision to be an entrepreneur is, what do I want to spend my entire week pouring my energy into and completely submerged in? And if it's not whatever it is that the business you're looking to pursue, if it's not where that space lies, I would advise against it. I think that the mental preparedness that goes into being an entrepreneur is so important before you even put pen to paper to make a business plan, or before you even apply for a business loan or a grant.
Mm-hmm.
First, you have to understand, why am I doing this? What do I want out of it? And what's going to make me feel fulfilled and happy?
Yes, I love that. And so for you, what role would you say the strategic planning and financial preparedness play into that successful transition from that corporate life to entrepreneurship?
I think it plays a huge role, because if you have not made a plan to supplement your income somehow from your corporate job, your business is going to falter, because now you've started to, as a full-time entrepreneur, you're mixing your personal expenses with your business. If you're not making enough money with your business, it's really hard to cover those personal expenses. So you tend to start pulling from places within the business so that you can make ends meet on a personal end, or vice versa. You start pulling from those personal expenses to shovel into the business to keep it afloat. So it absolutely is imperative that you have a plan for yourself to actually live. It's going to be hand in hand with having a plan for your business to survive. If you can't pay your rent, and you're going to end up pinching from whatever the business is making, and that might not be the right answer. So you've got to have that nest egg for you to live off of, or provisions for you to live off of, in order for your business to succeed. So that strategy behind balancing your life and your business is critical.
Great advice. I agree. And so for those entrepreneurs who are listening that are aspiring entrepreneurs, and they have some fear and uncertainty, what would you say to them, how to overcome those fears and uncertainties associated with leaving their jobs?
The fear and uncertainty is not going to go away. It's just going to transfer to regret and uncertainty. But you're still going to have those feelings. I probably say at least once a week, did I make the wrong decision? Was I crazy to ditch that job? I was getting paid. I was doing great. I mean, it happens all the time. And it's usually when I've experienced some sort of a barrier or some sort of a setback or a roadblock. And I'm like, oh, I should have just stayed at Amazon. I was doing just fine. Was this crazy? And I think that's natural. Like, I really do think that that's just a part of being a human, that we're going to have those fears and we're going to have those uncertainties. And then even after we make a decision, we still might be unsure. We still might feel regretful. We still might feel like, man, I don't know if this was right.
Yeah.
I think that the answer is not necessarily how do we ditch those feelings, but how do we work through them?
Yeah.
And so for me, I work through them by understanding and feeling responsible for my entire team. At this point, between Luso Salon, Luso Sweets, and the Luso brand as a whole, we're close to 20 employees.
Wow.
And so leaving that and just throwing it in a hole, I'm responsible for those people and their job and where they work and their livelihood.
Right.
So for me, that's how I push through that uncertainty. When I asked myself, was I crazy to leave that salary? Was I crazy to leave Amazon? Maybe I should just get on LinkedIn and apply for something because this ain't it. Yeah, what fuels me is, well, what happens to all those people? You know, what fuels me is, oh, it's too late, sis. you already here. You just gonna have to keep it going.
Keep going.
And even if your business does not have 20 employees, even if it's just you, you're gonna have to find whatever it is in your gut that inspires you and make that be the thing that pushes you through quitting. Maybe it's, hey, I've got to set an example for my siblings or my kids or my parents who believed in me. You know, whatever that is fueling the fire that you have. When it feels like there's too much wind blowing and that fire is about to go out, you got to dig back for that fuel.
I love that. That is so powerful. That was a word for me. Yes.
Yes.
And so, we spoke about your journey and you taking that leap. Were there any indicators that signal to you like this is the right time that I should leave?
Yes. So, and I love that you asked this question right after we talked about kind of the strategy.
Yeah.
My husband and I, we closed on our forever home on July 7th of 2021, right? This is 2023. So yeah, 2 years ago. I resigned the next day.
Wow.
I made sure that my ducks were in a row, at least the ones I felt like I needed.
Yes. Yes.
So there was, for me, it was a list of boxes I needed to check. And then that's when I struck. But I will also say, I might have stuck in there a little bit longer, but there was also an organizational change that was among us at Amazon at that time too, within my team. When I left Amazon, I think I mentioned I was on the DEI team. That was my last role. And at that time, Amazon's DEI representation was sprinkled among each different team. But they were switching to make it like an umbrella where everybody was on one DEI team together. And it just was kind of like a big blend for the whole company.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that transition was the perfect time for me to say, like, okay, I don't have to deal with all of this change management. I'm going to phase myself out. So the answer to the question, in short, is twofold. Checking those boxes on your personal end and assessing the trajectory of your corporate career.
Mm-hmm.
Would I say it's the perfect time to leap if you're like up for promotion? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe wait it out. Get that promo. Get a few of those paychecks with that extra income under your belt before you say, hey, it's time for me to go. Or would I say it's a good idea for you to leap off the corporate ladder before you've purchased maybe your first home? Maybe not. It could be a lot easier to go through that close process and get approved for a mortgage and underwriting and all of those things with guaranteed income. So maybe you decide to check that box first if that's what's in your plan for you. So I think you have to observe and assess your personal bucket and make sure that your ducks are in a row there, but then also observe and assess the trajectory of your corporate career too before making the decision to leave.
Such great advice. I agree. Plan all of that. Yeah. So I want to talk about any resources or practices that really helped you like mentally or emotionally as you prepare for your transition.
Yes. Oh, I'm excited about this question. So I am an avid reader. I absolutely love to read. So I spent a lot of time reading a host of leadership books just to kind of get my mind together for making sure that I was ready to lead by myself.
Yeah.
Of course, I was already in a leadership role during my corporate career, but you have a whole team of people. You know, it's very different. So I spent my time reading a lot of books by Maxwell, making sure that like I was brushed up on the mindset that it takes to lead and inspire and engage others. So definitely hit that leadership book realm, number one, as a resource. Number two, a therapist.
Yes.
Okay? I know that some people may not think that that's a resource, but geez Louise, yes, it is. I made sure that I had a solid relationship with my therapist because it's really like dating, I swear. You could go to therapy and be like, whoa, this was not a good fit.
Yes.
So I went through the speed dating with different therapists far before taking that leap so that I knew I would have somebody that's like, we're locked in, we're solid, before I was going through what I thought would be like super challenging time. Lastly, and this one really has just come for me since this year. It was actually one of my goals for myself this year was to retap with my spirituality. I had kind of abandoned that for some time. Not to say that I didn't believe or anything like that, but it just wasn't top of mind like it should have been. It just was not my focus. I do identify as a Christian. And so I felt it was a priority for me to strengthen my relationship with God, to find a church home again, and to reinvigorate reading the word and studying my Bible, because I felt like I was missing that to be whole.
Yeah.
And I know that everyone may not be Christian, but a lot of people do have some sort of spiritual identification. So whatever that spirituality may be for you, even if it's, I believe in self, then let's just focus on that spirit and get your mind right for what's ahead. Those are three of the biggest resources that I utilized: reading, therapy to protect and equip my mental health, and my spirituality.
Yes. I love Maxwell. Shout out to Maxwell.
Me too.
So deep. It's like sometimes I have to read them over. Yes. You have to reread. I feel like I have to reread his books, or like that TikTok that's going around, like you're reading the lines multiple times. But it's like when I get it, I get it.
Yes,
So, yes,
absolutely.
yes. So you are doing, as you mentioned in the beginning, multi-hyphenate, multi-passionate, and a lot of things, or multiple business owner. I want to talk about some of the work that you're doing. So if you could talk about your journey from, okay, one business to two business, and how you've been able to multiple businesses, how you've been able to successfully scale, and just talk about some of your growth journey in the different brands.
Yes. So, some of the brands of my business were not successful, and we had to step on those, step on them and
Mm,
squash them. And again, we talked about this is a humbling experience.
yeah.
So sometimes it's like, okay, you have to assess, is this worth the lift? And if it's
Mm,
not, kill it.
yeah.
And getting rid of some of those things allowed me the space to focus on growing things that were worth it. So my business opened, the brick and mortar business opened September 1st, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
We were shut down for the pandemic on March 15th, just a few months later, while I was
Mm-hmm.
a brand new little baby infant of a business. And at that time, we were not writing commercial leases or even commercial mortgages, if that's the route you take, in a way that gave you a pause for a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
It just was not on our foresight. I know it wasn't on mine. So
Right.
I was responsible for the rent and overhead costs at my business while we were closed. In addition to the fact that at that time I didn't have many employees, I did have
Mm-hmm.
independent contractors. So I didn't qualify for a lot of the relief and paycheck protection that was being offered to small business owners. I just didn't qualify yet, unless I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be dishonest, which I refused to
Right.
do.
Is it worth it
um,
now? I'm like, oh, I wish I got a piece.
exactly.
I
I'm
know.
seeing people actually locked up like Akon. It's so sad. Like,
Like, hey, God. That's
yes.
funny.
So, anywho, I had to assess what needed to be left behind and what had space to
Mm-hmm.
grow. The pandemic changed the beauty industry in the sense that suites, which were really not that big before the pandemic, they were there and there was a lot of them and they existed, but they weren't like they are
Yeah.
now. Like now they're everywhere. Now you can find a suite easier than you can find a open concept salon. Going with that and identifying industry changes is what's helped me to segue where I should scale and where I should grow and hone in on what was important. For me, it was always in the plan to open another salon. Never did I think I was going to open suites instead.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to respond to industry changes. I am a huge proponent for a SWOT analysis.
Mm.
I mean, I will grab a notebook, a
Yeah.
napkin, heck, anything I can find and make me a SWOT chart real quick. You know, what is low impact and low effort? What is high impact and low effort? Like, let's chop those some of these things out by putting them in a SWOT and making educated decisions based on that. I tell the story all the time of a part of my business, Luso Extensions. It was an e-commerce and brick and mortar retail experience for luxury hair extensions.
Mm-hmm.
I did a SWOT analysis of Luso Extensions and I gave myself a 6-month timeline for the low impact, or I'm sorry, the high impact, low effort
Mm-hmm.
pieces of the business to be implemented and work, as well as the high impact, high effort. My high impact, high effort was hiring a third party marketing firm, which was high impact because it was expensive. And then it was very hands on as far as the creating the content along with them. It was supposed to be high impact and it wasn't. After that 6-month period of seeing that these things were not working, it was
Mm-hmm.
time to snuff that candle. So, to answer your question, how have I decided and how have I juggled scaling the business? I will swat it out in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what helps me to make the decision of whether or not I should pursue a certain avenue with scaling and growth, and or whether or not to get rid of something.
Right. I love that. And I think so many times, I love that because I think so many times we have ideas and we're like, oh, I want to just hold on to it. It's such a good idea. And sometimes we have trouble letting go. But to show that you have a strategy to that, I think it makes it easier for people.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, especially for those of us who did study business, because of course you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to have a business degree to be an entrepreneur. You
Right.
don't have to have any degree to be an entrepreneur. I think that's where it's dope to have a business coach.
Yeah.
Somebody who will give you that idea and swat it out with you and remember those things that they studied. I can't tell you how many times I had to insert a SWOT analysis in a project while I was in school.
Yes.
But then you don't think about leaving school and actually using that. Like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I need to use that. I need to write this out in that way. And I do the same thing for my clients. So when it comes to assessing whether or not it's time to scale, I think that a SWOT analysis is the perfect way to understand if it's going to be worth the lift.
Totally agree. Love that. And now you spoke about your book earlier, Leap Off the Ladder. I want to talk more about this and also for those who are listening, how it can provide guidance for those aspiring entrepreneurs or those who are looking to leap off the ladder. Can you talk more about some of the takeaways and things that people will learn from the book?
Oh, absolutely. So as far as the book goes, I really feel like it is one of those read these lessons learned so that you can avoid them.
Mm-hmm.
Avoid these pitfalls that I had. My book is truly a compilation of my journal entries that I had during that time of pursuing entrepreneurship. And I translated them in a way that was able to be read by others and resonate with others. I've received feedback from readers who are not aspiring entrepreneurs who were able to say that they took valuable things from it. That whole crazy equation that I talked about from a time management standpoint is something that's in my book, and that could be utilized by anybody, whether you want to
Right.
be a entrepreneur or not. We all have things that we have to balance and juggle. So I definitely think that you walk away with a lot of usable gems on how to prioritize your goals, how to make a strategic plan for whatever goal it is that you want to achieve. But then most importantly, the book talks about how I had to pursue my passion in
Mm-hmm.
order to feel fulfilled, whether that's in a corporate arena or outside of one, could be totally individualized. But just talking about the journey to finding that and pursuing your own path is definitely something that can be taken away from reading Leap Off the Ladder.
Love it. We're definitely going to put the book link to in the show notes. And also,
Thank
in
you.
addition, you're welcome. And in addition to that, you also mentioned earlier, and then also based on research, you founded Luso Gives, which is philanthropy. So how can giving back and serving the community impact? Well, talk more about Luso Gives. Give us more about what inspired you to start and kind of what you do.
Absolutely. I always make a statement. I am not blind to my privilege.
Mm-hmm.
I have been raised with the blessings of God. Okay. And I
Mm-hmm.
know this. I was never one who had to go through the struggle of instability or what am I going to
Mm-hmm.
eat or how am I going to make it? And I'm not blind to that. I think we have this culture nowadays where privilege is like a nasty word. It's like a curse word. It's
Mm-hmm.
like calling somebody the B word. Oh, you privileged.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, I stand in that privilege and I am grateful for it.
Yes.
But I'm also humble enough to recognize that everybody doesn't have that. So I feel since I do have it, it is my responsibility. It is my duty to reach out to others who were not fortunate enough to have the same privilege that I have had and that my
Mm-hmm.
daughter has. And so that's really where Luso Gives comes from. Within our mission statement, I always quote, I feel it is my responsibility to give back to the community where my business thrives.
Mm-hmm.
My business is in Portsmouth, Virginia, which some people around here call Portsmouth the hood, which I find to be hilarious because I'm from Detroit, so nothing about Portsmouth looks that hood to me.
Right.
But but you know, the quote unquote the hood, they say. And there are certain parts of Portsmouth where, you know, the median income is very low. And I feel like it's my duty to take myself out of my little cute cul-de-sac in Churchland
Mm-hmm.
and impact the rest of the community. And then that extends to the beauty industry as well. So we have a scholarship fund under Luso Gives that is designated to cosmetology. If you don't get your cosmetology license while you're in high school, which some people have the opportunity to do, but many don't, then you're responsible for paying those tuition costs on your own to attend cosmetology school. And it can be anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000, depending on what school you choose. I was able to pursue that while I was a student at Hampton University because my dad was paying my college tuition. So it wasn't really that awful for me. But for most people, $30,000, how are you supposed to just, knock that off the list without financial aid, without scholarships? It's very different than a traditional university where you can just fill out your FAFSA, get a student loan, get a refund check to live off of if you need it, and keep it pushing. With cosmetology school, those options are not there. So that's really where the scholarship fund came to life under Luso Gives, is that I was interviewing for stylists and I would come across so many talented stylists who do not have a license. And it's just because they could never afford to obtain one. And that's disheartening to me. So my goal is to level the playing field there.
Beautiful. I love it. I love in all that you do, you give back. So important. And earlier, Morgan, you also mentioned your coaching. So I want to talk about, for especially those who are listening, this has been such a valuable conversation and they're wondering how can you continue to offer support to them. So I want to talk about the ways that you offer support or resources to those entrepreneurs who are at the various stages of their journey.
Absolutely. So my business coaching comes in the format of one-on-one and it is virtual. So the sessions are offered by the hour. And I take that hour to dissect whatever it is that is happening within your business or within your planning before you even start your business and walk you through it. I do primarily work with the service industries because that's where my experience lies. I have clients who are accountants, for example. Most are in the beauty industry, some who have a food-based industry. So that's really my niche, is the service industry for those who are in the startup phases or who are in the infancy and starting to scale and grow. And what I focus on specifically is that people operations piece, helping you to create hiring strategies, helping you to create management strategies within your organization and ensuring that you have structure. But then there's also that personal piece, all of those personal challenges that we just talked about. I'm able to kind of help with those because I've been there. I've felt those feels. So just somebody who you can relate to and talk through it. The analogy that I always make for people when they're like, well, why would I need a business coach? I could just do the research and look this stuff up. I always take it back to sports. The coach cheers for you when you win, but they correct you when you don't. And they help you come up with a plan. Yes, you still have to carry the ball through the end zone yourself, but there's that person on the sidelines that's helping you create a plan to get there. And that's exactly what a business coach does.
I love it. I love it. And do you have any story that sticks out, a transformation story from one of your clients that's like, this is amazing, I did that, and I'm so proud of that client?
Oh, absolutely. I think my biggest transformation story is one of my coaching clients who I've been working with for 18 months now. She actually successfully opened her brick and mortar salon. And I find that to be a success for me too.
Yes.
We went from the stages of, I don't even have a business plan yet to, okay, let's write your business plan. Let's write your operation model. Let's write your capital investment plan. What are we doing with the money that you have saved? Then we moved into hiring strategy. We moved into marketing strategy. We moved into optimizing the footprint of her retail space after she found it. How many square feet do you need? How do you negotiate this lease? What types of clauses should be in the lease? I mean, from the ground up. So I find that to be one of my biggest successes, is helping her from before the start to finish, where she is now fully staffed. And the last I checked, revenue above $40,000 a month, which in the first year, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so I would say that's one of my biggest successes. And then the second, I would say, I mentioned my accounting clients. So one
Mm-hmm.
of the biggest challenges that I've had as a business coach, and I was just talking about this on my Instagram story the other day. I'm super active on Instagram. And I was just saying that, building a clientele as a hairstylist was a little bit easier than this because you do a sew in, you take a video, and then people are like, oh, great, she can do a sew in.
Right.
With business coaching, first of all, you can't air everybody's business.
Mm-hmm. That is for
Within
sure.
my contract, there's an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, where I should not be just sharing willy-nilly what people have going on or even the name of their business if they
Yeah.
don't want. So you really just have to kind of take my word for it to understand that I can help or that I can be a resource.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been one of the biggest challenges. So when I say a success story that makes me happy is being able to obtain a client outside of the beauty industry.
Mm-hmm.
For her to be able to see my vision that my experience owning a hair salon is transferable to anybody offering a service and managing a team.
Mm-hmm.
It was in one of her sessions the other day, she was talking about troubles that she's been having with a particular client. And she was like, I don't know if this is the right question for you since you're not in accounting, but let me tell you about this trouble I've been having with my client. She's very hard to please. And she continued to go on in detail. I said, oh, I can relate to that a million times over.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you are
Good.
doing somebody's bookkeeping or doing
Yeah.
somebody's hair, I can relate to servicing a client and managing a
Mm-hmm.
team. And then I also have that piece of managing overhead of a brick and mortar space. So it was a huge success for me to obtain my first client outside of the beauty industry and that person trusting that I was able to deliver results for them.
Yes. I love that. And I love that you shared those transformation stories because I'm sure that is a breakthrough for somebody who's listening and they're like, I know this, so I only have to stick in this industry. And so for you, you're like, these are outside of that industry and I still have, created the success for them. Love that.
Absolutely. Huge win.
That is. And so, Morgan, for you, do you have any advice for someone who is in their first year of business?
My advice is get yourself a business bay.
Mm,
Okay. And I have a business bay. My friend Jasmine, she owns a dance studio. My daughter is a veteran student at her dance studio.
mm-hmm,
Jasmine is my business bay. I can call her and we can talk strategy. We can talk, oh, this is so hard because she's been there. She
mm-hmm,
gets it, and she's also in that stage of just scaling and growing and knocking it out the park. She's a more mature entrepreneur than I. Her business is in year 10 of operation this year.
mm-hmm.
But she and I, we just get each other. So I would say that in year one, whether you decide that your business bay is going to be your business coach, or that it's just like, I really feel like it should be outside of your business coach. This should be somebody that you're not paying for a service. This is just somebody that you are friends with and they're an entrepreneur too and they get it. And you can have those like clothes off, naked conversations, vulnerable.
Yeah,
This is how I'm feeling, but I need a friend who's not going to judge me and who's not going to correct me and who's not going to strategize in this moment. Just hear me out.
yeah.
Yeah, we need a business bay.
A business bay. Love that.
Yes.
Love it. And so now I want to jump into a quick round of not so serious business questions. Some fun. So my first question is, which TV show do you wish still aired?
Desperate Housewives. That is my show.
Yes. Okay.
Do you
I
remember
never
Desperate
watched that, but I
Housewives?
heard, no, I do remember it, but I remember it was so popular. Yeah. That's a classic.
That is a classic. And I make a joke. I feel like I live on Wisteria Lane. I live in the suburbs and my neighbors, we're all pretty close knit.
Yeah.
But I love Desperate Housewives. I have memories of my mom and I on Sunday nights turning on ABC, watching
Mm-hmm.
Desperate Housewives. And she would watch Grey's Anatomy, but she wouldn't let me watch that one, which now that I'm an adult, I understand why.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised she let me watch Desperate Housewives, honestly. But yes, I just have the fondest memories of watching that with my mom, and any memory I have of my mother is amazing since she isn't with us anymore. So I think for that reason alone, it just sticks with me. But on top of that, it was such a good show. I'm like, can we keep going? What are the kids doing now?
Yeah. Don't you find like sometimes, like I've been going back and watching old shows because it's like that was the good stuff. That was the good
Yes. Oh, yes. We will turn on Sister Sister in a minute. Moesha. Yes.
Oh
Yes.
yes, classics. Love that. And if your business had a theme song that played every time you entered the room, what would that song be and why?
If my business had a theme song, ooh, I think I would go for the Carters, Boss.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Love it.
Love it. Good company. Good one. Good one. Okay.
Yes.
And let's see here. What is the most random, because you spoke about Instagram, what's the most random social media account you follow? Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is almost embarrassing. Okay, so I am like one of those people who swoons over puppies. Oh my God,
Okay.
yes. And so I spend literally so much time looking at these puppy videos and sending them to my sister. And she and I are always sending each other back and forth hilarious videos of puppies. But specifically, I follow this page called Cocker Spaniel's World. And I like spend so much time looking at these cute little Cocker Spaniel puppies.
Aw, that sounds cute. That sounds cute.
Yeah,
Okay.
so when my husband listens to this episode, hopefully it inspires him to get me a brown Cocker Spaniel because
He got to get it. He has to get it. I was like, do you have a dog?
I do. She's the
Okay.
queen of the house. Her name is Sugar.
Okay,
And she's
sugar.
she's a Maltese, and she is the princess of the house. She runs the world around here. But Sugar wants a spice, so that's
Yes.
where we're at.
All right. Say, hubby, you got to get that. You got to get the dog.
He's not gonna do it.
I put in a good. I'm like, listen.
Thank you,
Love
thank
that.
you.
And so my final question is, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
It means to me that we've already broken that barrier that that we're not business minded or that we can't be entrepreneurs. That's over with.
Over
There's
with.
millions of examples of the contrary.
Mm-hmm.
What it means to me being Black in business is that we can keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am so tired of seeing the first Black.
Yes.
Like, yo, it's 2023.
Really?
Why
Yes.
is there the first Black anything? Like, I am sick of this. And it just makes me so very upset. I think that it just is so infuriating that we are still being prevented by systematic racism to not thrive as quickly as other groups of people. Yeah. It's just so frustrating. Yeah. So what it means to me being Black in business, and I talked about this a bit with the word privilege. I am a second generation entrepreneur. My father is also an entrepreneur, and he's been a sole entrepreneur for the majority of my life. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited to start seeing like legacy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm so frustrated by the first. Mm-hmm. Where's the third, fourth, fifth? Like, I'm ready for that generational wealth that we talk about all the time. I'm ready to see it. And I'm excited to be a part of it. Like, mm-hmm. I'm excited to show somebody that generational wealth is not a dream for your child, your grandchild, your great grandchild, that it's happening. Yes. You know, my daughter is third generation of wealth, like starting to build here. Like, you know, it's not this this unattainable thing that we can't touch. We hear that all the time, just like we hear the 1% all the time, where it's just so arbitrary and it's just so like abstract. What is it? Who are they? No, I'm living it. I am a second generation entrepreneur, and that's what it means being Black in business for me.
Felt that. So powerful. Love it. Morgan, you're welcome. This has been amazing. So people who are listening, they're like, okay, where can I find her? Where can I connect with her? And where can I support her? So please do share.
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Yes.
So my Instagram is Lusso CEO, and Lusso is spelled Lusso. So on my Instagram page, you will see a link in my bio to my website, thelussobrand.com. And on thelussobrand.com, you can shop my book, Leap Off the Ladder. You can book a coaching session with me there. You can access all of me on thelussobrand.com. So go ahead and follow my Instagram, Lusso CEO, if you don't mind, you guys. I would love to connect with each one of you. I'm super interactive there, so you're not talking to an assistant or a social media manager. It is me. And I really love that. I feel like it's cool to have that interpersonal connection with everybody. So yes, you can connect with me there, Lusso CEO.
Yes, and we'll definitely put those in the show notes as well so people can quickly find those. But Morgan, this has been amazing. I'm so glad that you shared your journey. I'm so glad that you were so transparent with your journey. And I know people who are listening learned so much. I really want to thank you for being a guest on the Black to Business podcast and all the work that you're doing. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm telling you, I do not take it lightly. I know that you take a chance anytime that you do these interviews. You could turn on the camera and there's nothing coming out. So thank you for trusting me and giving me the opportunity to speak with you and your audience. I am so excited. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Such an amazing conversation. One, Morgan is such a light, and she had me smiling throughout this entire conversation. I love her story. And two, I love the fact that she was so real and so transparent, because that's what we need. Entrepreneurship is not a walk in the park. And speaking of transparency, let's get into the takeaways from this episode. So we talked about transparency and challenges. One of the standout features of this episode was Morgan's candidness about her journey, and she didn't sugarcoat the challenges that came with transitioning from corporate life to entrepreneurship. Her openness reminds us that it's okay to face difficulties on this path. And two, we also talked about the importance of having a plan. Morgan emphasized the significance of having a well thought out plan. She shared that your plan doesn't have to be a rush one. In fact, it's perfectly fine to take your time in developing a long-term plan. Rushing into entrepreneurship can lead to unnecessary stress and potential pitfalls, and we do not want that. And don't let the internet rush you. In a world where social media often paints this picture of overnight success, Morgan's advice is a breath of fresh air. She shared an example of one of her clients who took, 7 years to take the leap into full-time entrepreneurship. And this is a reminder that everyone's journey is unique, and it's crucial not to be rushed or discouraged by unrealistic timelines. So if you're looking for more insights and resources to help you navigate your own journey from corporate life or your job to entrepreneurship, be sure to visit blacktobusiness.com/169. And there you discover more about Morgan and access to the valuable resources that she mentioned during this episode. And I just want to thank you so much for listening and being a part of the Black to Business family. And if you have made it this far, you really rock with us. And you know what? We'd love for you to help us plan out 2024 and make it a better year for you and your business needs. Now, we don't ask for much, but today we do need a quick favor. If you could be so kind and take our 5-minute survey by visiting blacktobusiness.com/survey, we'd really appreciate it. This will help us make this platform better for you and your business needs. So thank you in advance. All right, I will chat with you next week, same time, same place.